Hello everyone. I would like to explain the chapter 1 of grade 12 physics. So this will have multiple sessions. In this session, I will be discussing about the introduction of the first chapter, that is electric charges and fields. So chapter 1. Electric charges and fields. What are the different points that we are going to study in this chapter? So as I have said, this will, as the name indicates, we will be studying about the charges, field due to the charge, exchange of charges. So first point is charges, fields. Along with that, we will be studying about the force, electric force, then laws, different laws, maybe the Gauss law and Coulomb's law of attraction, which will include the charges, exchange of charges again, and some derivations in between. So first, in this session, as I have said, we will go on to the basic part. So we will study what are these charges, why the name charge has come. Okay, so let me start with the session. Introduction. Many of you might have observed when we take the clothes from the wardrobe during the dry season, some crackle noise is observed, correct? Or you might have also seen that if there is any oily comb, it will slightly attract the papers. Why is it so? What are the reasons behind all these things? You might have noticed, but you might not have seen very deeper into that, correct? So we will see what are the reasons for all these examples, the live examples which we come across in our daily life. So this is actually because of the term called electrostatics or static electricity. I will give you one more example. If I have a blown balloon, you just try to hold it on the wall, near the wall. It will not stick. But what you do, you just rub it on your hair if you have any oil content. Then try to hold it near the wall. It will stick there for a very fraction of a second. That is also because of this static electricity. The word static electricity. So all these come because of the static electricity or electrostatics. So it is, static means what? Stationary. So because of the stationary charges, we experience all these things, all these examples which I have just mentioned before you. Now, instead of the plastic comb which you have, if you take steel spoon, it will not attract, or it will not try to attract the pieces of paper which you have done before as you have taken this comb. It will not do. So we will see what are the reasons behind all these things. Clear? So this is static electricity or electrostatics. Now how can you define this electrostatics? It is a branch of physics which deals with the study of fields, charges, or exchange of forces. So all these things constitute electrostatics. So that is the study which is basically dealt with or dealing with fields, charges and forces. Now this is the main concept which we study in chapter 1 and 2 of grade 12 physics. So first and second chapter mainly concentrates on this fields, charges and force. We do have a lot of numericals, a lot of derivations, along with that definitions and so many examples which we come across. So first and second chapter is basically on mainly on electrostatics or static electricity. The word electricity, how did the word electricity originate? Electricity word originated from the Greek word amber. Amber. It is basically originated from the word called amber. What does this mean? It means that it is reddish yellow stone, reddish or yellowish stone, which when rubbed against each other, it could attract or it could lift some very light materials. Very light materials. So that is the reason which further caused for the other studies, then we do have this electricity, okay, static electricity. So there were a lot of investigations why when this amber was rubbed against each other, why it could lift. What is the reason behind that? So based on that, further investigations were made. After so many years of investigations and studies, they got some clarity why this static electricity or why do we have electricity. Okay, so now electricity means the total positive and negative charges together form an entity called electricity. Those two charges, okay, positive and negative charges together form one entity and we call it as electricity. Okay, the body which has these two, we call them as electrified bodies. We call them as electrified bodies. And the property which separates this positive and negative charges is called as polarity. Polarity of charges means positive charge and negative charge. So this is the very basic concept: electricity, electrified bodies and polarity of charges. Now, when I take that example of comb and a paper piece, you might have seen this experiment. You take a plastic comb and below that you just take pieces of paper, just roll it on, it will not attract. Okay, just rub on your hair if you have oil content, then just roll on these paper pieces. You will just observe that these paper pieces are slightly attracted towards this plastic comb. Now we say that this plastic comb will take negative charge and this paper pieces will have positive charge. Negative charge and positive charge. Now why is it the reason behind positive charge and negative charge? Why can you tell that this comb will have negative charge and paper pieces will have positive charge? We will see what is the reason. Okay, now if I take a balloon and what? Here also this balloon will have negative charge and this will have positive charge if we have little oil content on the balloon. Now we say that negative means what? Electrons, basically the electrons. So comb will have excess of electrons when compared to the paper pieces. Okay, it will have excess of electrons. Excess means what? Large in number. So when compared to these electrons which are present in the paper pieces, this comb will have more number of electrons. That is why we tell that comb is taking or comb will have negative polarity. Similarly here balloon will have negative polarity when compared to the wall. So with what you are comparing, with that it will have the excess of electrons. So here it is balloon and here it is comb. Now how can you tell that this is having negative charges? Why not this have positive charges? There is one series called as triboelectric series. This is not given in your textbook, but still I would like to explain a very simple manner. So this is a series. This will have zero polarity. This will have positive and negative. So many investigations were done based on these polarity. Okay, that is whether it is positive or negative charges. Under that, so this is carbon, okay? Carbon will have 0, it is neutral metal. Now, these paper pieces, wall and all those different materials come under this category, okay? They will always have positive charges, I'm sorry. This always will have positive charge. This comb, balloon or any plastic materials, this balloon, rubber, all those things will come under the below category, below the 0 level. Okay, if you take this as a 0 level, okay, above that you have positive charges. That means a lot of materials which come under here, that when you take those examples, that will always have the positive polarity. Some materials like plastic, rubber and all, which comes under this category, that is below, will always have the negative polarity. So based on this, we can tell whether comb, balloon has negative charges. This is the reason. I hope it is clear for you all, so that there is no confusion. So if you but you should know these series. It is very difficult. You can refer some books which will tell whether which material is having positive charge or which material is having negative polarity. So based on that, we can tell that this is always negative. So it will have the property to take the electrons, excess of electrons. This will have the property to give the electrons to the comb or balloon or whatever material you consider. So that is why it is negative and positive in nature. So this was some examples which we come across. So this is the reason, that is static electricity. Charges are already there, but when we rub against each other, then this polarity of charges occurs. So that is, first we have charging by rubbing. So these two are the best examples which we can explain. Charging by rubbing. What you do here, you take the comb, you rub against your hair and the paper piece. You just say that you get these two charges, positive and negative charges. So this is one of the process where we get charging of the bodies or electrification of the bodies. So it is charging by rubbing. These two are, you can give as the best examples. Now next is charging by conduction. Charging by conduction. What is this charging by conduction? Conduction of electricity. What example you can give for this? If you have any material, okay, say that these are positive charges, positive rod. You bring one more, you touch against each other. Okay, so you have negative charges. What you do? We know that positive attracts negative, like charges repel and unlike charges attract. That means this is one of the properties which we study further. Okay. After these three processes, there is one more process. After that, we will be studying about the properties of charges. There we will come to know positive charge and negative charge attract each other. We will study about that. So now if there are positive charges here, if there are negative charges here, what will happen is there will be a transfer of electrons or transfer of charges. Negative, where the negative charges are less, there it will go. So that you get the equal amount. One here, like this, whatever it is. So equal amount of charges. Now charging by rubbing is applicable only for insulators. You cannot do this charging by rubbing for conductors. So that's what I said. If you take the comb, instead of comb, if you take the metal spoon, you cannot have these two. By rubbing, this is applicable only for insulators. So this is only for conduction. So conductors, materials which conduct electricity. So that means you have this charging by conduction. You just bring the two bodies close to each other. You can touch the two bodies. So what will happen is transfer of charges take place. So that is what the charging by conduction is. Next one is charging by induction. There is a slight difference. Charging by induction. Induction means you will not bring in contact the two bodies. Okay, you keep distance here, keep closer to each other. You will not touch. If you touch, it means conduction. If you just have a very small gap, then it is charging by induction. Suppose you have any rod, metal rod here. So you take the positive charge. Say that there are positive charges are more here in this one. Now you bring one more rod. What happens is negative charges come near the top of this one because these opposite polarity will try to attract. So negative charges will come here on top and positive charges will be here. So now this is charging by induction. So that means you have the polarity separation, charge separation here nearby. That means this is getting charged or electrified. So this is charging by conduction, this is charging by induction. So there are three main procedures: charging by rubbing, charging by conduction and charging by induction. So these three are very important, but it is very simple. You just have to know the very basic difference between charging by conduction and induction. Conduction means you bring the two bodies close, touch each other. Induction means you will just bring the bodies close to each other. You will not touch the two bodies. So this is the basic difference, and one important thing you have to remember is rubbing is applicable only for insulators. It is not applicable for conductors. So this is the basic concept which I have explained today. So first I have given you some of the examples which we come across in our daily life. Then based on that, how the charging process takes place. So rubbing, conduction and induction. So these are the three different processes which we have discussed in today's session. So coming further in the next session, I would like to explain the basic properties and